Hi, everyone. I'm Kalika Yap, and this is the EO Wonder Podcast, where we share real stories from entrepreneurs in EO and beyond. Today's guest is Ryan Crownholm, an EO Los Angeles member, a serial entrepreneur, investor, advisor who's been on both sides of the construction world. Ryan started in the field as a demolition and Class A general engineering contractor, built a construction business, and sold it. Then he went on to fixing some of the biggest pain points he lived firsthand using tech. He's the founder and CEO of MySitePlan.com, a leading provider of non-certified site plans with more than 70,000 customers, and also DirtMatch.com, a data-driven marketplace that helps contractors, haulers, and developers move dirt without the usual chaos. Ryan is also a U.S. Army veteran, the author of The Hustle Trap, and someone who gives a lot of his time to groups like Defy Ventures, Youth Champions, and Equip Our Kids. We're going to talk about what construction gets wrong, what tech can actually fix, how an accident changed the way Ryan works, and what it looks like to build companies that support your life, not eat it alive. Plus, we'll get into AI, automation, and why Ryan loves adventure motorcycle rides and solo backpacking. Ryan, I'm so happy that you're here. Welcome.
Hey, Kalika. Good to see you.
So the first time I really got to know you was when you did the EO talk for EO. And you talked about this deadly accident that happened. I always like talking about top or bottom 5%.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, it's some of the worst trauma of my life. Yeah, it was back in 2007. I was getting my crew rolling, and they were downloading a Bobcat off the back of a trailer, and the jack snapped, picked the back of the truck off of the ground, and started rolling down the hill. Unfortunately, I was down lower in the hill, looked up, saw the truck coming to me, and couldn't get out of the way. Fell down right in front of it. Feet got tangled up, ran me over, drug me down the street, crashed into another car, jackknifed, and then I pulled myself out, and my femur was sticking out of my jeans, and my tibia was snapped and had shattered my shoulder, punctured my lungs, and a bunch of other stuff. So it was pretty rough. It was about 12 hours of trauma surgery to put me back together, but I lived.
Wow. So how did that change your life?
Well, in a lot of ways, it made me reevaluate sort of how I live my life and who I surrounded myself with. But in the biggest way was how it changed how I ran my business. Was before, and this I get into this in the hustle trap, but I was stuck in the hustle trap. I was pretty hardcore, very, very hard worker, and I had been doing the grind and the hustle for about 7 years, growing the business, and I was plateauing. Mostly because I was 100% in. I was pulling permits. I was driving trucks. I was driving tractors. I was meeting with customers. I was doing, a dozen different jobs because I could. And I thought that was the right thing for me to do. And it's funny how when you get put into a hospital bed, you're not able to do those things anymore. And so I really had to rely on my people. And it turned out that I had really great people. And so I empowered them, and I started running my business in a different way, from sort of the backgrounds on the computer and actually managing a company. And it ended up being a really big unlock. And the business really started to take off after that. And so about 7 years after that accident, I exited my company and moved on to technology.
Wow, that's so crazy. How did you get into your construction business in the first place? Tell us your origin story.
Oh, sure. Well, I was a military guy. I got out of the military, and funny enough, about 2 weeks after I got out, I was living in my parents' house. Their house burned down. They were doing construction, and so I found myself without a home and living in my car and thinking about what I could do. And I was a big, strong kid, so I was bouncing at a bar and doing some bartending. And I went and did hauling with a guy. He was hauling people's trash around, and I thought, oh, this is an interesting business. That's something I can do. Doesn't take a lot of smarts, takes some brawn, and so I can load trash into a truck. So I started a company called Hauling Pros, and it really started to do well. And I went from having a trailer to having a dump truck, and then more and more guys came and worked for me. And after about 2 or 3 years of doing that, I had 10 trucks and about 20 guys doing about $1 million a year revenue, and that's while I was in college. And then from there, that sort of evolved. It's like, well, could you do this demolition, or could you, I eventually got on a Bobcat, and it was like, oh, this is kind of fun. So I learned how to use that, and so the trucks got bigger and the tractors got bigger, and eventually, I got more licenses. I got a C21 for demolition, and eventually a Class A general engineering contractor license, and so yeah, that was sort of the trajectory. It was really just about doing something that I could do. It's actually something I do a lot with these guys in Defy, the formerly incarcerated population, is like, look within yourself and see what your unique skill set is and leverage it into a business. And at the time, mine was manual labor. I was a well-spoken guy who knew how to sell, but also a person who loved to work, to do manual labor. And so I was very comfortable doing 16-hour days of manual labor 7 days a week. I actually loved it. Yeah.
I mean, this is sort of like what you're built for, the brawn. And then you turned, I guess, starting to use your brain more.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that until later, that I was actually eventually would sort of learn this entrepreneurship game, and I got pretty good at it. And so yeah, that was just for me, I just didn't really understand the space, so I did what I could do. And so, maybe if I knew how to hang sheetrock, I would have grown a sheetrock company, or it just hard to say.
So after you sold your business, you started diving into tech to help fix the problems that you firsthand knew about and in construction. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that wasn't the plan. So the plan after I sold my company was to go back to school. And we ended up instead, because I wanted to go to Stanford to get an MBA, but instead we moved down to LA, and I decided I didn't really like any of the schools down here programs. And so I kind of hung out. I got an RV. We traveled around. We sort of just did a little of this, a little of that, and actually got really bored. It turns out when you take someone who's a doer and they stop doing, it's actually kind of depressing. So I just started tinkering with a lot of the technology and stuff that I was always a little tech forward anyhow, even in my construction companies, because I was in the Bay Area and there's just so much of that going around. And so that's where I started the drafting company, which was sort of a process that I had in my old company for helping with permitting. So I started that company. And then the one that I really wanted to go after was the dirt. Dirt has always been a big problem in the construction industry. There's millions and millions of yards every day moving across highways. There's no structure around it. It's the timing is all off. And so I thought, well, since I had a person in my office who was sort of my designated dirt broker, they would sit there, answer calls, put deals together or whatever. I thought, well, I could build technology that would replace that person. And so I built Dirt Match, and that's really done well. It's been a really popular platform so far.
Yeah. Is that the one with 70,000?
No, that
was another company.
No. We have about 28,000 users right now on Dirt Match. We've I think right now there's probably 20 million tons of dirt on there. We have, there's transactions happening every day. It's a very popular website. It's not a huge moneymaker yet, but I think it'll get there.
That's a lot of customers, though.
Yeah, we get a lot of customers. Yeah.
Yep. How about MySitePlan?
Yeah, so that was a company that I built. It was built off of processes with the demolition contractor. We would have to do these site plans for permits, and so I created a really great process. The building departments like them, and so I thought, well, if it's useful to me, maybe it'll be useful to other people. And so I launched that as a product, and it's been really successful. So we're nationwide now. We've been going for about 13 years.
And it's non-certified site plans. What's the difference?
Yeah, so it's anything you're allowed to draw yourself. If you're allowed to draw it yourself, we can do it for you. If you need a certified site plan stamped by an engineer or surveyor, then we have referrals for you to send you to that route. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're also an author of The Hustle Trap. What made you want to be an author and tell your story?
Well, a couple of things. It was COVID. So COVID was like, sitting on my hands, and I like to be busy, like I said before. And so just started sort of digesting a bunch of the things that I've learned over, 25 years as an entrepreneur, and putting them into writing, and then eventually thinking, oh, okay, this could be really useful. I help a lot of people out with their businesses when I can, help them get off the ground, particularly. It's something I really enjoy. And so I thought, let me just write a book and I'll hand it to them instead of answering the same questions over and over. I called a lot of friends and people that I'd worked with throughout the years, and I just said, what is it about me that you find, different as an entrepreneur? What are my strengths? Because I don't know. I just do what I do. To me, it's really normal. And so got a lot of really good feedback and just put it into a handful of lessons and wrote a book. And it's been great. Never wanted to make money off of it or anything. Just wanted to be able to hand it to people if they could use it. And so far it's been useful to people.
What kind of feedback did you get? What are your strengths?
Well, that I'm quite good at systems. I'm much more of a systems person than I think that a lot of people are, and I didn't know that about myself. And now that I look at my business, I wrap systems around everything. I'm quite good at people. I know how to manage people and hire really good people. Yeah, feedback loops. I'm good at making sure that everyone who's taking part in my business benefits, meaning myself, my customer, my employees, everybody. And so that was a few of them.
How do you think you got good at systems? Was it because you had that military background?
Maybe, yeah, maybe out of laziness. I don't want to have a job. And so really good systems can let you step back from your business. And so for me, I set up bulletproof systems and then I put really good people into them. And then I know I can move on to the next thing. As a super high ADHD kind of person, I don't like to focus on any one thing. So, but I also don't like to walk away and, just relinquish parts of my business. And so systems is the way I do that.
Yeah. And now you're moving into AI.
Mm-hmm.
We started our own internal AI ninja group because we want to learn about AI together. Tell me a little bit about your AI journey.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been fascinated with new technologies. And so I whenever something new comes up, I usually will do a deep dive. And so I'll spend maybe a couple hundred hours just to really understand it. And actually it was my in my forum, I had done the same thing with SEO before where I said, hey guys, I'm going to teach you a class on SEO. They're like, oh, what do you know about SEO? I said, nothing. I'll teach it in 4 months. And then I went for maybe spent a couple hundred hours really, really getting deep understanding and then taught it to them. And they were like blown away. It was really helpful. And so I did the same thing with AI. I said, hey guys, I'm going to teach you a class on AI. It was like, what do you know about AI? I'm like, nothing. but I'm going to. It's kind of a way of like forcing myself. It's like a function of forcing to learn. And then I went really deep, and I got through a lot of the fluff because there's a lot of fluff on it. So it was like I found out that saying I'm going to teach you a class on AI is like saying I'm going to teach you a class on the internet. It's like, it's just too broad. You can't. And so I focused I got really narrow into a couple of tools, which was like vibe coding tools. I love Replit is very useful to me. And then Lindy or N8N for automations. I really focused on those because those were really good for building systems. So I could build systems to handle my team, and now I can build full functioning applications that are like customer facing but also within ChatGPT, building projects around everything, just making sure that anything that can be handled by AI will be handled by AI. And so that now if I work, I typically work 4 or 5 hours a day. Those days are 40 or 50 hours of productivity because of AI. And so now really trying to empower my team the same way with AI.
Do you find you're more relaxed or overwhelmed, or how do you feel around AI?
So going back to the ADHD, it's like a superpower. One of the problems I've always had is I have a lot of ideas, and when I go to execute on the ideas, everything moves too slowly. So I keep moving forward, but the actual project lags behind me because I can't move fast enough. And AI has flipped that. Now, if I have an idea, I can bring it up and I can start executing immediately, and it keeps up with me, whether it's building out applications, whether it's building, new processes, new automations. I can sit down in an hour, 2 hours, 3 or 4 hours, and I can build something that's fully functional and hand it off to the team. And so it's been revolutionary for me.
And exciting and...
Yeah. Oh, it's great. It's great. I mean, I just feel like a 10x person now. It's been amazing for me.
And really productive, because at the end of the day, you're like, now that you know how to use the tools, you're like, look at all this that I accomplished.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And for organization too. I mean, even like I'm leaving in a couple of days to go to Vietnam. I built a project around it, and I put all my, all the travel plans, everything in there so that I could query it for, what are the missing gaps, what should I do in between? Give me a packing list because based on the weather and temperature, and like for, it knows what about my kids and my wife. And then I sent that GPT to my wife, and then that way, because she likes to just show up where I do all the planning. Now she has the GPT, and she can go in there and just ask it questions about what she has coming up. So it's not even just in business. It's like for everything. It's really amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Are your kids also entrepreneurs?
Well, it's hard to say. I don't know yet. We'll see.
Yeah.
I have, one of mine is 15. The other one is 5. And so the 15-year-old, I think, has some entrepreneur in him.
Yeah. Although Max, at the beach party, he was like selling a lot of coconuts.
Yeah, I know. He actually probably will be more of an entrepreneur. I think him and me have a lot more in common. Eddie is an intellectual, my older one.
Yeah.
He's a very deep thinker. And so I don't know. He'll be like a professor or something. It's hard to say.
Yeah, he is definitely intellectual. Yeah, what a sweet guy. Yeah, an academic. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe he'll be at Stanford. You'll
Who
be taking
knows?
classes
Who
from them.
knows? Yeah, hard to say.
So how are you keeping up with AI these days? Are you taking courses or are you just diving in?
Yeah, I like to learn by doing. So I'm building things, and a lot of it is like, I wonder if I can build this. And so I go spend a day and I see whether or not I can. And if I get stuck somewhere, I go, what other AI tools are there to help me do it? And so, and also just knowing people that are doing stuff in AI. I think if you just go on the internet and say like, hey, how do I do X? You're going to get 99 things that are worthless. And there's one of them buried in there that's useful. And so to bypass that, if you know people in the space and go, hey, what should I use for this? And right, they'll tell you. And
Right.
that's the shortcut. Yeah.
Right. Like Bones in our AI and Ninja group.
Bones is a great one.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, I remember sitting next to you at one of those EO breakfasts, and you had talked about how you had automated your marketing system, like trying to find leads. Talk a little bit about that. Do you remember?
So I have fully automated marketing systems. And so I basically, for my companies, when somebody has a need, I make sure that they can find me. Typically like both of my companies they're need based. Like I can't sell you a solution for your dirt problem if you don't have one. Unlike if I was selling t-shirts, that would be a different type of marketing, because I would say, here's this t-shirt, it would look great on you. But if I say, here's a platform to get rid of 100 yards of dirt and you don't have any, you can't. So for me, it's always been find out who's going to have a regular need, have an outreach campaign for those people. And then anybody else that goes online, make sure the SEO is up so that I can be there and you'll find me.
Yeah. And you're also optimizing your websites for AI using, I guess, GEO, like generative engine optimization.
Yeah. Well, I'm making sure all the schema markup and everything is appropriate right now. Google is really good at reading your website and looking at image tags and things like that, and that was good for SEO. The engines for AI they're using a lot of energy right now, and it's a big problem for them. So if they can go on your website and all your schema is properly marked up, it can read through it very quickly, and you're much more likely to show up in the results. Whereas if you don't have the appropriate schema markup on your website, you just simply won't show up.
Yeah. What I learned when I was at Stanford was everything's based on tokens. And so because they have limited tokens, because they're either not on the paid plan or they're on the free plan, then they really want to take shortcuts. Mm-hmm. And so it really helps if your website is created for AI.
Yeah, right. Which is when you're building, because I'm building some new projects right now. I won't talk about them quite yet, but I'm building it with that intent from the ground floor up. Because other sites like MySitePlan that's 13 years old is a lot more that I have to get into it to change things.
So how do you think AI is going to change businesses in the next 1 or 2 years?
Well, I think it depends on the size of the business. I think, AI is just a tool. It's kind of like saying, how do you think the internet was going to change businesses back in 1999? There was going to be, some businesses were going to fall behind and we're going to resist it. And other ones were going to stay on board, and we can see how that worked out. I think this is a tool that needs to be leveraged, and if you don't leverage it, I think you're not going to exist anymore. I think the same thing for people. Like right now, I'm looking for, if I'm hiring people, I want to know their level of experience with AI. I don't want to hire non-AI empowered employees. I still like people, but I want them to be empowered the same way that I am.
Yeah. I remember in the 1930s, guess how many people were in farming?
How many?
In percentage of people that were in farming in the 1930s?
70%.
Okay. And how many people are in farming today?
1%, less than 0.1%.
Yeah. So 90% in the 1930s and 1% today.
Yeah.
And how has that changed? Like what businesses do you think exist today because farming is obsolete that we probably all have a membership to?
Yeah. So one of the ones that I'd be really worried about right now is if I was a SaaS company. I think with the AI coding right now, it's still pretty clunky, but it's getting better and better. I talk about this like with Dirt Match. The software eventually for Dirt Match will become completely worthless because anybody could rip it off. The value is in the marketplace, is in the market effect, is in the users. And so if you're a company that sells, like a CRM or something, there's companies like Salesforce that, they'll charge you $1,000 a month and you'll use 5 of their, 200 different like functions that they have within there, where now smaller businesses could build a sort of a built CRM for themselves very inexpensively and free, and they don't need to spend the money monthly. So I'd be very scared being a software company that doesn't have like exterior value to it, like a marketplace.
So companies like HubSpot, Salesforce, right?
They do. I mean, they have some market effect happening, but there's a lot of other software companies out there that are just strictly software. That I'd be pretty nervous right now, because it's getting to the point where someone will be able to drop a web link into a vibe coding agent and it'll just build the site. Not there yet, but it's getting closer.
And lots of e-commerce through ChatGPT, and Claude and Perplexity, that's coming too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So where are you putting your attention to these days as you look into 2026?
I'm building, like I said, I'm building another business, and I've got the site is built and it's getting launched right now, and I'm building it from the ground up with no people. With all the customer service is AI. I'm building it all with AI. It's a fully functional. I think you're going to start to see a lot more of these. Like I think maybe a 10. They're talking about like eventually you'll see a unicorn. One person company, $1 billion company. That's a long ways out. But I think a $10 million or a $50 million company can now run with one person. And so I'm interested in experimenting, like sort of pushing the limits of what that looks like.
This company is getting the clients, handling the clients, doing the work.
Right now, it is on a very small scale. While I'm perfecting it, I'm not marketing it or anything. People are finding it, and we're making some revenue. But I probably next year I'll start doing a big push on it once it's perfect.
I know I was talking to one of my entrepreneur friends, and he's using this AI tool called eLease. And basically, he's finding people to lease his property and his buildings all through AI.
Wow.
And he's comparing the output of his 15 salespeople to this. And it's just a fraction, the humans are doing a fraction of what the AIs are doing. Yeah.
I think that's totally true. And everybody who has a business right now should be looking at exactly that.
Yeah.
Is, what tools can I use to not necessarily replace people, but to empower and grow? Like, can I grow without adding more people to my team? And I think a lot of people are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's really scary is like, if you think about a human and they get a lead and it takes them 4 hours to get back to someone, as opposed to an AI that will get back to you in 15 minutes or less than 15 minutes, send an application, and then you're signing documents and you do that round the clock rather than having to wait for someone to say, it's happening.
I think some companies probably for that use case will over leverage it. I think there's still a lot to human connection, the human touch in the sales process. And I think a lot of people will try to over automate and try to get people out of it completely. I think through systems, processes, onboarding, customer service issues, like how nice is it if you can talk when you're calling Amazon? They used to reroute you to India and somebody who doesn't understand you, and they just read off the FAQs. It's very frustrating. I'd much rather talk to an AI agent that actually understands complexity, understands my account, can immediately answer. Like that type of stuff is great. But if an AI calls me and wants to sell me something, I have no interest. I want to still talk to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll definitely evolve, right?
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I can't see into the future, but I have some ideas. I still believe in human nature.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully. But when I was at my Stanford class, they basically said that 60% of the jobs today are going to be gone. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it could be. I believe it, but I think new jobs will come up. I look at Vina, my wife. She does like social media stuff, and social media. She does ads and things. Like 20 years ago, I never would have thought that could be a job.
Right.
And it is now, even back growing up, like I didn't know anyone who had a house cleaner, and now everybody has a house cleaner. We used to laugh at people who changed their own oil. Now everybody changes their own oil. Yeah. So these jobs, things shift, jobs come up, like there's always changes. And so what those jobs look like, you might not like them, maybe it'll just being doing pranks on the internet, but it'll be a job. And that's just the direction society will go. Humans are busy. Mm-hmm. We're very busy. And so we'll always find ways to stay busy, and when we're not busy, as I learned when I sold my company, we're not happy.
Yeah.
So hopefully AI doesn't take our purpose. That's the biggest concern. Because
Yeah.
purpose is important.
Yeah. I completely agree. How has your leadership style changed from earlier in your career to now?
From leadership, my organizations now, I run them very flat. In the military, it's very top down. So it's, rank and file. And when I got out, I think I originally started my company like that, more rank and file, and eventually just learned that when you get really good people and you empower them and everybody is just kind of the same, like very flat, I found companies to run much better in the smaller scale. I've never had a $100 million company. Yeah. So, for a smaller company, for a flat organization, that's the way that I want to operate. All my customer service people, my customer service manager, like everybody's just the same, and it works.
Yeah. So you've moved toward empathy and emotional intelligence. What helped you build that skill, especially in the construction industry?
People want to be cared for. I mean, I don't think it's just construction. It's, if somebody feels like they're cared for, they'll perform better. And I think that's the same in your household and your relationships. Like everyone wants to feel cared for, right?
Have you always been like that, or?
I think so. I do care about people a lot, and I want people to succeed, and I want to support them.
Yeah.
So.
And you spend a lot of time volunteering with Defy, Ventures, Youth Champions, and Equip Our Kids. Tell us a little bit more about why those organizations.
I think that I didn't have a whole lot of guidance when I was younger. I got in a lot of trouble, and nobody really took me under their wing to show me what to do. So I just kind of had to figure it out. And I could have saved a lot of time. When I got out of the military at 23 years old, I probably fumbled for, 7 or 8 years trying to figure stuff out. And I think I could have saved the 7 or 8 years if I had somebody being like, no, don't do that, do this. Here's what you could do. Like, that type of stuff. And so I that's sort of one of the reasons I wrote the book. It's one of the reasons why I try to, like the guys for Defy, they're getting out of prison. They've been in for a long time. They don't know anything how the outside world works. They've lost a lot of the years. And so maybe I could be a shortcut for them. And it just feels good. It was like when I sold my company, when I really felt like I was floundering and I didn't have any purpose. Once I found Defy, it really felt purposeful. It felt like purposeful work. And so that's, same with, Youth Champions. It's, the underserved high school kids. I feel it's just good. It's a good use of my time to do that work. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're learning chair, and you're bringing us to Defy Ventures, I think in January. Is that right?
March. Yeah.
March. Okay,
yeah. We're going in, a group of us. I think about 30 of us or so are going to go into Tahachi State Prison and work with the Entrepreneur and Training Program. So, and I think you're coming. So
I'm coming.
It's going to be a lot of fun. It's be very, very rewarding. And I think it's going to blow you away.
I've always wanted to go. They've always talked about that field trip, and I never. So I'm so excited. Thanks for arranging that.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
looking forward to it.
When pressure hits, what helps you stay calm and make decisions?
I walk a lot. That's usually sort of my go-to. If I have a lot on my mind, is no podcast, no phone, and just go on a walk and think. I realized at some point I had looked at my schedule and said, how much time do I actually plan for thinking, just for using my mind? Because I have a tendency towards ingesting nonstop podcasts, books, learning, relationships, and never digesting. And so really planning for it, walking every morning, walking during lunch, walking in the evening. And that's where I sort through most of my problems, is really thinking them through very deeply. Yeah.
Yeah. I just came from a silent retreat, so I understand.
Yeah. Okay. Also very good. It's hard to be alone with your thoughts, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first 2 days was this great unwinding, from the world. And then when you're practice being, it's you have this insight, you have this awareness that you can bring to your regular day after you leave the retreat. So I think it's really.
How do you feel now?
A lot of calm energy.
Is it chaotic coming back to your life after that?
No. Yeah. Because this is my 4th silent retreat that I just finished. That's why I didn't go to the holiday party. But it's, there's this quiet but calm, and it's energy that's there.
Yeah.
But very calm rather than, chaotic in your mind.
It's very much what I do when I go backpacking. I do these backpacking trips by myself, and I just go into the wilderness and just be alone with nature and with my thoughts. And it's actually challenging for the first, day or so of just feel like you get kind of bored.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that boredom is good. That's where the growth comes from, is it just you're bored and suddenly like boredom, pain, all those things are growth opportunities. You got to sit in it.
Yeah. You travel with your family, backpack solo, and ride adventure motorcycles. What do those experiences give you that business can't?
Oh, business just supports me. Business supports me so I can do those things. Like I said, I just like to be free. I mean, it's the same with the motorcycle. I don't like riding motorcycles around LA streets because eventually someone will send a text message and kill me. So I do ADV riding, so on-road, off-road. I just did over Thanksgiving break a few days up in the Eastern Sierras, which was a blast, just cutting through dirt roads and just exploring all over up around Mammoth and Bishop. And it's just fun. Just being on the road is just fun. I did one before in Alaska too, where I spent a week, doing a couple thousand miles across the old Denali Highway. Just so much fun. Backpacking, same. I really enjoy living in LA or the city like that. There's so much action everywhere, but I also occasionally need to just disconnect and connect back with nature. And if I don't do that occasionally, I just get disconnected from myself. And so that's really my opportunity to connect. So yeah, it feels really good. And then traveling with the family, it's just about connection and memories. Yeah. We're leaving for Vietnam in a few days. We're going to go for Christmas break. And, my 15-year-old, we only got so many more years with him in the house or where he'll be able to come with us. And so really just want to create amazing memories for him.
What is the favorite place you've traveled as a family?
So, Max is only 5, so he hasn't been around for most of our travels. Eddie, we homeschooled him for 8 years. And so we traveled all over the place with him. So, it really depends on what we were looking for. It's like we did a, trip to Colombia. We did Alaska. We did like a history tour of the East Coast. We've done Ecuador, was amazing. Canada. I don't know. Like we've been all over the place, and each trip was unique in its own way. Spent a couple of times at Nicaragua and Costa Rica. I can't pick one because all of them have been just amazing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that curiosity is there, and you're building that in your kids. I mean, that being curious about the world.
Being curious and also just understand that you can figure it out. Like, you go on these trips, sometimes, the planning is loose. And so we go and we just figure it out and we have a good time regardless. And sometimes you hit some struggles in travel, and those are good. It's good to deal with.
What item would you never travel without?
My passport. Maybe $100 bills folded up nicely to pay someone off if need be.
That's a good one.
Not travel without. Yeah, I don't know.
What business book have you read this year that's your favorite?
Atomic Habits is one that I read every year, and just because there's so many great lessons in it, James Clear.
So great.
That one's great, and also his the weekly email that he does is really good too. Yeah, so I would say probably that one again. Yeah.
Yeah. What's a belief you changed your mind about?
Man, I try to keep my mind so fluid, and I always have, that I change my mind about things all the time. I had this conversation the other day. Someone asked me why I don't have tattoos. And I said, because every time I think about getting a tattoo, I don't want to be locked into anything that tattoo means, because I might change my mind later.
So you're always changing your mind.
I do. And I think society sometimes punishes people for changing their mind. If we're out in the streets and we're protesting against something, and then that person sees your way and changes their mind, then they go, oh, well, you used to say this and now you say this. It's like, well, you were asking them to change their mind, and now they did. We should celebrate that. We should celebrate people who change their mind. So I really try not to get locked into any beliefs.
So what type of advice would you give to an entrepreneur listening today in this day and age? What should they be thinking about?
I notice a lot of younger entrepreneurs right now, they want money really, really fast. They want, cryptocurrency, and they hear stories about, people who make insane amounts of money in their 20s and live large. My advice would be make money slowly. Everything that's built slowly is durable. So grow a durable business, make money slowly, and one day you'll wake up wealthy. But there's a lot of people that just chase after fast money, and they never find it.
And they lose it.
and they lose it. Yeah. So be patient. I'd say probably be impatient with the action, but be patient for the results.
What advice would you give to your kids maybe later on?
Well, I mean, I give advice to my 15-year-old all the time is that tell him, that he needs to learn to work for himself because, if you go work for somebody else, then you're basically, you're forfeiting the value you create to someone else. If you really want to capture the full value of your worth, then you should work for yourself. And that's the way to do it.
Does he agree?
We'll see. I mean, he's 15, so I'm his dad. So it's either, I don't know what sticks and what doesn't. Probably most of it just bounces off and get eye rolls. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah. When I was telling my dad was just saying, in 5 years, because I got a journalism degree, he said you may want to consider business. I mean, that was it. That was his advice, and it made all the difference in the world because he planted that seed
for a business degree.
Oh, just to go into business.
Yeah,
very simple. Just like you, just work for yourself.
Yeah. I think I'd be a terrible employee. I've never really had a job. I mean, since the military 25 years ago, and then, bouncing. I don't know what corporate America is like. I don't know what it's like to have a real job. And I don't think I'd be a very good employee.
But being in the Army, you have that structure. Wouldn't help being an employee?
So it was a finite amount of time. And so I knew how I needed to behave for that time. And I knew that the end was going to come and that I would be able to work underneath that structure for that period of time. If somebody told me, no, you're going to be in the military for 20 years, I would have lost my mind. I'm not built to be an employee.
Neither am I.
I'm not built to follow someone else's rules. I like to do things my own way. In the military, they're very rigid in that you have to do things a certain way. And some of those things are right and some of those things are wrong. And I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm just saying that I want to do things my way.
Yeah, your way.
Yeah.
How can people contact you if they want to get to know you?
You go to RyanCrownholm.com or I'm at Ryan Crownholm on pretty much all the platforms because there's no other Ryan Crownholms out there.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time and being on this podcast. You're so fantastic. I have such admiration for you and what you've built.
It was so fun, Kalika. Thanks for having me.